You're probably wondering what I'm doing. Welcome to part 9 of the restoration of the 1964 MGB Roadster. We're getting down to just about the shell here. Not a lot left to take off this car before we send it to paint. Well, despite all the wires hanging, we're going to try to get the steering column out today. But first, what I want to try to do is separate the steering column from the rack and pinion right here with this knuckle. I've taken out this bolt. I'm going to take out this one and see if I can just pull that steering wheel part out that way. I got this just about as far off of the rack and pinion here as I can. It won't go back any farther because it's hitting the body right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to take the rack and pinion off. As you know here, this is the tie rod end and it's connected to the front axle. We're going to take this nut off and then I'll show you how to separate these. It's really not that hard. This is my pickle fork. I bought this probably 1981 at Blankenship's Auto Parts in Rockford, Illinois. Now what we're going to do is put some pressure in here maybe. Or not. I'm not reusing that anyway. We're going to take these two bolts out now and then two on the other side. And these are 1/2 inch. Okay, let's just do that 3 more times. I've got the 2 bolts out over here and the 2 bolts out over here, and this is loose. There's the rack and pinion down there. I just wanted to point out, there's no shim here, and there's no shims on this side, but there is this here. So I'm just going to leave that there for now. With the rack and pinion out of the way, I'm now removing the knuckle here, the U-joint, from the steering wheel. And I'm just using a hammer, tapping it here. We'll get that off and we'll get the steering wheel out. There we go. Okay, we got the knuckle off. I'm going to replace that U-joint. This is a mess too. Well, there's the steering column. Here's our rack and pinion and our steering column out of the car. Let's get it up on the bench and see what we have to work with. This is part of the steering column. Here's a part here. Here's a part here. It's a steering wheel. This is the horn part. I have the part that goes in the center someplace, but that was in there. And then there were little screws in here that held it in place, 3 of them. Getting those out was a challenge. I had to heat the area up and then I worked them loose. And now we're going to take the steering wheel off of here and then we're going to take the wrapping and see what kind of steering wheel we got. I've got the steering wheel here in the vise, and to my surprise, the nut that holds the steering wheel on was only finger tight. So that came off easy enough. I don't see a washer on here. Now, if we can just get the steering wheel off. Oh, look at that. Okay, we got the steering wheel separated from the steering column. Yay for us. I can't wait to see what the steering wheel looks like under this wrapper. Okay, let's start unwrapping. And there we go. After taking a closer look at this steering wheel, it appears like it was damaged or broken here on the areas where the spokes hit the ring. and it was some kind of put together with some kind of glue or epoxy, and then wrapped with that steering wheel cover, and that was that. But I don't know if I can bring this back, or I might have to buy a new one. But I don't think I'm going to spend a lot of time trying to clean this one up. Here we have a tie rod end. That I'm going to replace. I'll replace the boot on the rack, and I will clean all this paint off the rack and put it back to black. As far as the rack, I can hold on to the rack and move the pinion, and there is no play whatsoever in the rack and pinion. So we're just going to clean it up and re-grease it. So here I am today sanding and painting parts, and I came across the old U-joint for the steering column. And although this U-joint feels pretty good, I have a new one, so I'm going to replace it. And let me show you how I'm going to do that. You may not be able to tell, but there is a lot of paint in here. And these little clips are just glued in with this paint. This is going to be fun. I get to play with fire. That broke that off. Well, as you can see, this is broken and it's not coming out of there. So, what do I do? What I'm going to do is try the other side. Oh, so close. Ta-da! Here is the old U-joint that we took out of the steering column. And here is a shiny new one we're going to put in. Here we go, boys and girls, moms and dads. We're going to insert the universal joint into the steering column. So this is really pretty easy. Let's see how difficult I can make it. What we're going to do is we take the caps off the U-joint and we'll fill them with grease. Then we will take and insert them in the sides of the U-joint and put one in this side, the U-joint in the middle, and squeeze them together. How could this be difficult? The reason I fill these with grease is to keep the little roller bearings in place. So I'm going to put the cap into the knuckle, and I'm going to take the little U-joint and put it into the cap. When you put the U-joint in the vise, try to get it as square as you can, and then we'll just tighten it down. Oh, lock it. Then we'll just tighten this down and squeeze the cap until it's flush, okay? We'll take the other cap and put it in this side. Notice the grease here that came squishing in. And push the U-joint into the cap. Get it in our vise as square as we can. And start squeezing. There you go. Okay. Put our socket in here. Like that. Okay, you see that went in far enough? I can put the clip in now. So here's my clip. And look at how nice that is compared to trying to get that old rusty one out. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to push this side in until this cap is against the clip. Okay, I compressed that bearing cap in. And as you can see, now it's tight where I can't spin this clip around anymore. I just have to put the clip in. So, after we have both clips in, this is an important thing. What you want to do is you want to make sure both caps are against the clips and not compressing on our little U-joint. Now I can turn this and I can see it's tight. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to spread out these bearing caps. So I'm going to put it in the vise like this, resting like that on the ends. And I'm going to take my big hammer and I'm going to hit it right here. Doesn't have to be really hard. Do it the other way. Now look how easy this moves. There you go. Now we're going to do this with the other cap. So there you are. We have a nice new U-joint in our steering column, and that is ready to get bagged and tagged for reassembly. I'm scraping the paint off the rack and pinion here. So what we're going to do with this, because like I said, there's no play in it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the tie rod ends and replace them, take off the booties and replace them, or the gaiters, take off the red paint and turn this thing back to black. And then we'll be done with the steering rack and pinion. Well, I'm getting there. I'm sanding the steering column. There's a joke here someplace. Rust is off and the paint is on this part. We've taken the steering column down to bare metal and treated it and painted it its original black. Here's the two brackets that hold the steering column in place. And of course, a nice new universal joint. Of course, we have the new gaiters or booties installed. And in addition, we have brand new tie rod ends that we'll put on after we install this in the car. I know what you want to know. You want to know, how much did this little process cost me? Well, first of all, let me say, the steering wheel, I'm probably going to buy a new one. That's going to be around $300. I'm not going to include that until I actually spend the money, but we're going to have to get a different steering wheel. That being said, a new pair of gaiters cost us $19.99. New tie rod ends, $28.99. A new universal joint, $9.49. One thing that's not pictured here is a new one of these. This is a draft extruder. That's what it's called. It's the grommet that goes around the steering column where it goes through the firewall. A new one of these is $4.99. That all being said, here we go. When we started this episode, we were at $3,442.94. All of this cost $63.46 for a grand total of $3,506.40. That's what the restoration of the 1964 MGB has cost us so far. So, if you want to keep up with the restoration of our 1964 MGB, subscribe to Robert's British Cars. Next time, we're going to be doing what's left of the interior. stuff like the heater doors, the vent doors, a couple of switches, and the wiper motor. We'll see you next time.